All it takes is a moment. Is it fate that you came this far unbroken? If it's destiny, you wrote it. Focused, but you gotta be focused. Make or break, it's the last goodbye they remember you for. They're calling your name, go and take what's yours. Here, now, it's everything you've been dreaming about. There's a reason why you were chosen. This is your moment. Rise up, you give it all that you got and you rise up. All the stories they tell about the champion who came from the crown. Are you ready to carry it now? Going full speed, never stop, never quit. You're the only one you got to convince that nothing's too far out of your reach. 'Cause all you are is what you believe. Here, now, it's everything you've been dreaming about. There's a reason why you were chosen. This is your moment.
Welcome to Rock Around the Clock, daily cloud gaming news live at the same time, Monday to Friday. But first, if you're new to the show, please subscribe and hit the bell. If you'd like to support the channel, why not hit the join button on the channel homepage and become a member of Team Rock? Here he is. Hello. Hello! Hope you all had a fantastic... I mean, not all of you had Easter, of course. And some of you were from different faiths and stuff. But, particularly in the UK, we all had a long weekend. In fact, we're still having it now. Today is still a public holiday. So I hope you guys are well. I hope you're keeping absolutely fantastic. And... I'm supposed to be on a keto diet, but I still had way too much chocolate. I couldn't help it. It's everywhere, isn't it? What can you do? It's everyone munching away on dairy milk and Cadbury's Galaxy. I had to indulge. What do you think, guys? Huh? What do you reckon to the new look, the new studio look? I put a little picture out on Twitter earlier. You can see it's actually the whole wall, although the camera only takes this area here. But I love it. I've been meaning to do it for a long time because it was very bland before. But yeah, I think it's looking good. What do you reckon? Big thumbs up, hopefully, from y'all. I'm just going to make sure here. There we go. It's all that Disney pixie dust. Yes, vet. Once he gets an idea in his head, you know, ladies and gents, it's difficult to get it out. It gets in there like it's like an old rusty nail, and you just can't get the darn thing out. Looking very smart, says Neil. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, I wish I could zoom out and show you more, but it's yeah, it's good, isn't it? I did that. Guys, how are you all? I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. So I think in most countries, you obviously you have, you know, the weekend if you celebrate such things, and Good Monday, whatever it is, or Happy Mondays. They were a band, weren't they? Excited to hang out tomorrow, Rock, says William. Oh, bless him. Oh, I'm glad you could. Oh, it's great. I think young David may be also joining us tomorrow, William. I had a little chat-a-vu with him the other day. He's really keen, bless him. He really, really wants to do it, but, you know, we'll see. No pressure. If he's there, brilliant. If he's not, it's not an issue, is it? It's all good. I had a good weekend. As you may recall, it was my niece's birthday. She kind of had a whole weekend of celebratories. We headed up on Friday. We went to a city called Bristol, which it's about an hour and a half's drive, hour and 20 minutes drive from here. And they did a load of trampolining while I sat there with my flat white and my phone and a shortbread. Let them do the bouncy stuff. That's not for me. It's not good for your constitution, I say. And then we went for a meal to Frankie and Benny's. That was all right. It was all right. You know, I mean, it's these franchises. They're not the best place. You want to kind of find, you know, a mom and pop restaurant, really, don't you? A little small local business, but we didn't. And shortbread, you sure know how to live. Listen, it's better than that. It was that shortbread, Sam, that has the layer of melty caramel and then a thin layer of chocolate over the top. What do you call that? Something Millionaires or something? It was one of those. Oh, it was delicious. It were lovely. And then we did a bit of that and then went shopping. And we got in some steps, me and the brother-in-law, with my young nephew, and they were looking at sports goods and things. I was a bit miffed there weren't any more techie shops and outlets, because that's my thing. I like to look at the latest gadgets and gizmos and stuff. But John Lewis had a few, so that was nice. That was really cool. I'm kind of trying to think what we did. That was Friday. Saturday, I can't remember. I chilled out a lot. I played a lot of Animal Crossing. Hey, listen, don't knock it. In 4 days, I'm up to my third house, paid all my mortgages off, learnt how to find pearls, which are worth like 15,000 of the currency, and you can rapidly burn through stuff. But I don't know, I think I might have peaked on it now. Kind of feels like it's grinding a bit, and they haven't given me new interesting tasks to do. But I was watching Crystal this afternoon. Hello Crystal, how are you? Playing Dreamlight Valley again, and I thought, blimey, there's so much more to that game. I've just been bopping about in the first part of the game, you know, which has got the not Snow White, Sleeping Beauty Castle and Merlin and stuff, and Goofy and fishing, and thinking it's good, but you know. And then I saw what Crystal was doing, and I realised there's so much more. So I might have to go back and do a bit of that. But I've got all these little games like Animal Crossing and Disney and Dinkum, all kind of similar games, but I do like them. I love those kind of games. And yeah, very good. So that's what I've been doing. What about you guys? Let me turn automatic off so I can monitor. Dreamlight Valley is good. I've been glued to it. Yes, you have, because on the Switch, it pops up in the corner. It says Miss Phoenix is playing Dreamlight. And no doubt it pops up and says, oh, and I also bought The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I tell you, I'm getting into this Switch. Although I'm disappointed, guys. It may be a great game. I haven't got that far into it. But I was expecting to play a character called Zelda. And it's some dude called Lynx. I'm like, where's Zelda come into this? What's it got to do with Zelda? What have I missed? I don't understand it. Raven Anime, how are you, my friend? Do you know, I'm very good. I'm a little bit tired. I don't know what it is with me. I did get Mummy to give me a haircut at the weekend, so it's a nice little trim, and I've decorated the old place. But yeah, I don't know why I'm so tired. I don't get it. Should be, you know, chilled, and Vet is doing fantastic. He is in a great mood, in a really good place, bless him. He's been doing excellently on his channel. And the good news is, in this kind of, you know, without ruining the magic of the creating world, but it is all about the algorithm. And when you get people pop along to your channel and you get new members and lots of subscribers and stuff, Google's algorithm takes notice and it thinks, maybe there's some content here for other folk. Interestingly enough, I was watching a YouTube show earlier today, and it was saying that game-related content, this and most of you, actually gets one of the lowest ad revenues per 1,000 views of all the kind of content that you can be doing content for. So I wouldn't rely on ad revenue, guys. I mean, my ad revenue, and bearing in mind, I'm putting out a good 10 hours of content a week, and therefore it's about volume, and it's a bit of value as well. But if I clear $5 a month on ad revenue, it's a good month. It's definitely not worth worrying about. The whole getting to 1,000 subscribers so that you can monetize, it's not really worth the bother. Genuinely, there are better ways to do it. And Crystal doesn't rely on anything. It's the best way to be. Naki Noo. Hey, I haven't seen Naki Noo for a long time. How are you? LOL. Look, mate, I've not been in Switch and Nintendo Land before. Zelda's the princess. Link is traditionally charged with rescuing or completing a quest for. I can't believe it's your first Zelda game. It's my... Yeah. This is the first time ever I've ever owned a Nintendo anything. Naki Noo. Animal Crossing was my first ever Nintendo purchase. See, I've said it before. What you got to bear in mind is, right, as an older gent plus from the UK, we never got the Nintendo, Sega, the whole kind of Japanese console thing didn't really happen this side of the pond. In Europe or Britain, it was concentrated on America and, of course, Asia. So you guys grew up saying, hey, come over and play on my Nintendo, and that's all it ever was. Gaming was all about Nintendo or Sega or whatever. We didn't have that in Europe. We never did. I mean, they came latterly and now, but honestly, it was never about Nintendo. So it's a different thing across the pond, the different attitude. Now, Nintendo's huge. I mean, since the Switch and since YouTube and the cross hybridization, I don't know if it's the right word, of the American and European cultures. They're almost the same now. So, there's that shared thing. But I didn't have it growing up. I had the Commodore 64. This is my lineage of kit, right? So I started with a thing called a Texas TI-994A, which I adored. And I migrated to a Commodore, I don't think it was the 16, anyway, Commodore 64, then an Amiga A500, then I think a PC, but it may have been early Apple because I started a little publishing business when I was quite young, and I had an Apple to do it all on, so some games for that. My first proper console was the PS3, then the 4, then the 4 Pro, and now the PS5. And then when I owned a PS5, I bought an Xbox Series X. That was the first Xbox I ever owned. And then, of course, PC stuff, proper little rig. And then cloud gaming. And then most recently, well, Steam Deck, but it went back. The Switch. So that was it, you see. That was my route. Past all the Nintendo stuff passed me by. But I thought I was going to be playing a character called Zelda. And it was a fella. And I'm thinking, the game starts up and then there's this personage. This is Breath of the Wild. There's a person on a slab. And I'm thinking, that woman's topless. There's a female character naked. The hair and the ears and the pretty eyes. And I'm thinking, but it's very androgynous. And then it pops up and it's, I'm Lynx. I was thinking, oh, it's a chap. It's a fella. Oh, Tom, all this time I've seen video of Breath of the Wild. I thought it was a Zelda. I thought the character I'd seen was this girl Zelda because it kind of got the long hair and the bunny ears and the pretty eyes. What can I say? Oh, look, I'm never anything other than truthful. That's what I thought. Neil started with the Atari ST. Ah, yeah. See, my friends had the Atari ST. Because, Neil, do you remember there was like, you either went down the Atari route or you went down the kind of Commodore route, didn't you? And I really liked the Atari because I think it had a great keyboard for a start. The Commodore keyboard, because it was that kind of weird lozenge shape, and the keyboard wasn't very nice, but the Atari was more sleek and had a really nice keyboard. And of course, the little Atari console that came out before that, my mate Martin had one of those. So he had the Atari with the joystick and then the ST, whereas I'd kind of gone, I'd had a couple of weird ones in between. I had a thing called an Oric and a Sinclair ZX81. Never owned a Spectrum. Kind of went from ZX81 to Commodore 64. But Ray's, you know, he's only a couple of years younger than me. All right, 6. But, you know, similar kind of lineage. So Ray's gone down the whole. But Ray, like me, he can remember the pre-Nintendo and all that stuff. And through adult life, teenage and adult life gets in the way. And you do less gaming. We did when we were younger, because you know we didn't have a dating app. We had to live our best looks and get down the bar and the discos and try and find lady company. We couldn't just put our profile on Tinder and hope for the best. We didn't have that, so we had to get out and stretch our legs. We couldn't go, right, Tinder, profile done, gaming. We didn't have that option. For us, it was, right, off down to Friday night, got me togs on, been out to the chaps, got me gear on, got me aftershave, yes, didn't have a beard, I couldn't grow a beard. I mean, I struggle now. And off I went with my mullet. I had a nice 80s demi-wave mullet that went down, and I was quite thin and tall, and I had kind of this very slight perm, and off I went. And in those days I didn't mind a sherbet. I did, as you know, I don't drink these days, but back then I didn't mind a little pint, although I never really got into beer. I would have what we call a shandy in the UK, which is basically about 2/3 lemonade and 1/3 beer. Or I'd have one of those Alco Pops, you know, that's like vodka, but it tastes like lemon. That was kind of me. I'd bang a few of those away. Rock with a mullet. We need some pictures. Yeah, there aren't. Do you know, this is the honest truth. There aren't that many pictures of me in existence because most of them were with my mum and dad. And they lived in a house where they got flood damage and most of the stuff was destroyed. Videos, photos, the whole works. It's true. So a lot of those pictures don't exist anymore, which is a real shame. There is a painting of us when I was maybe 18 or 19, and I had it was never a big old John Bon Jovi kind of mullet, you know, it was just longer hair. But it was, it existed, it happened. PlayStation was my dating app, says Phoenix. I met my fella on there 20 years ago. Wow. You were only about 7, weren't you? How does that work? Flippin' heck, Tucker. Talk about childhood sweethearts. How conveniently incriminating mullet pics were destroyed. I know. It's true, though. It is true. I'm sure you look great. Well, thank you, Crystal. Bless you. Bless your heart. I didn't think I was a bad-looking fella. I mean, I've aged like maybe not quite, not like a fine wine, like a cheap wine. I've aged like a cheap wine. That's what I've done. Wow, says Ray. Ray, we've seen pictures of you when you were young, mate. Don't you be giving me none of that wow. You and your, Billy Ocean and Luther Vandross look. Who was the chap? There was a specific guy I was thinking of and I couldn't get him into my head. I actually went to see him performing in the 80s. Oh, what was he called? Alexander O'Neill. Alexander O'Neill. That was Ray. Ray looked like Alexander O'Neill when he was younger. He was hot. Ray was hot. I'm telling you that now. Reefer's chuckling. I'd love to see these pics of Ray. Was he wearing flares? No, I don't. See, We didn't wear flares in the 80s, Phoenix. That was a 70s thing. And Ray and I were kids in the 70s, so we didn't do the whole Saturday Night Fever thing with the bell bottoms and all that malarkey. In fact, in the 80s, I think from memory, trousers were quite tight, quite like, quite thinnish. There were different groups of teen kind of gangs, I suppose, when I was in the 80s. So we had the mods. There was like a 60s revival of the mods. If you've ever seen the film, oh crikey, what was that film called? With Sting in it. I can't remember. Anyway, there were mods, and they were like sharp dressed suits and parkas and the little mopeds. And then there were the rockers. They were like the teddy boy look, they were kind of more into Hell's Angels bikes and stuff. There was that thing going on. I loved me some Alexander O'Neill. Mate, he was brilliant. We went to see him live. I used to go a fair old bit in the 80s. And I think it was 80s, it might have been 90s, but I'm fairly certain. Let me think about this. I met the wife, it could have been 90s, Ray, actually, because I met the wife in Christmas 1986. So it would have had to have been 87, 88, but I've got a feeling it might have been, maybe late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. I was with the nerds. Ray was with the nerds. Instead of flick knives, they had thumbsticks. Plug me in, baby. Oh, them's was the days. Your wife was a nerd. Was she, Ray? My wife runs 1,000,000 miles away from tech. 1,000,000 miles. Yeah, good idea. You find a good one, mate. Hang on tight. Nobody would have me. Quadrophenia. Thank you, Naki. That was exactly what it was, dude. Quadrophenia. Sting, and there was a few guys in it that went on to have decent careers. But Sting's, he was called The Face, if I remember rightly, and he was a mod, but it was very early Sting, so he was probably still in the Police at that point. Brilliant musician. Yes, so that was a good film. I think it's one of those that was made for the BBC. There were a few films that were kind of a bit on the cheap side because BBC never had any budget to do anything. But much enjoyed. I don't even think, there's no way I could have seen it first time around because I think it was an 18 and I would have been quite young. So it would have been one of those that we'd seen on one of our mates' VHS recorders. Oh dear. I saw a list on, where was it, on Facebook or something? Or, I can't think where it was now. Anyway, on social over the weekend. And there was a list of things and it said, how many of these have you done? And the guy that posted it, I assume it was a guy, by the way, I'm sorry if it wasn't, had said, none, I've done none of these. And Ray, you'd have laughed, mate. There was not one I hadn't done. There were things like, listened to a Walkman, recorded the radio on a cassette tape, used a VHS recorder, sent or received a fax. These were things I'm thinking, listened to a vinyl LP. Now I thought that was the most surprising one that this young individual had never done because vinyl's been on a kind of a renaissance, hasn't it, over the last few years. But mate, what can you do? I'm over half a century. I mean, I can't... This is true. When I was born, Laura Ingalls Wilder, those of you a little bit older will know, was authoress of the Little House series of books. And, of course, the Little House on the Prairie TV series, which was spawned from them. When I was born, she'd only just died. So she... obviously goes back to just after the American Civil War in the 1860s. And she was quite old when she died. But that's the thing I find fascinating. If you think back to when you were born and people were alive in a previous, in my case, a previous century. Because I was born, just after 1960s. So World War II, when I was born, had only finished about 20 years before. So anybody, you've got to think of it that way. It's amazing history. So anybody when I was born who was in their 70s would have been born in the 19th century, would have been born around Victorian times. I love all that. The thought of, how far back, and they would have had grandparents or great-grandparents who were born in the 18th century, in 17 something. Vet was born in 82. What year were you born then, mate? 82 was the year that I left high school, Vet. It was a great year, actually. I loved 82. Crystal was born in 1980. So I started high school in 79. So I was at high school when Crystal was born. And hey, Rouster, how are you, bro? Good to see you, my friend. But I love the 80s. And yeah, Adam was born in 76. We've had this conversation before. You're just a little bit younger. You're about 9 years younger than me, aren't you? But I don't remember the 90s that much, because it was it was my working life. And that's, you get up, you go to work, you get home, you watch a bit of telly, you go to bed. And that's like decade. But the 70s and 80s, so I was born in the 60s, I was a child in the 70s, and a teenager in the 80s. So I can remember those periods. I remember the 60s because, 1970, I was only 3. But I certainly remember the 70s, and I loved the 70s growing up. It was a level of innocence. TV was very simple. Movies were... look what happened in the 70s. Star Wars. Star Trek as a resurgent series, because although it was out in the 60s, it really took off in the 70s. It's just a great period. Vet's teen years were the 90s. Yeah, well, we've all been around, haven't we? The 90s for me, I got married in the 90s, had my kids, started my first businesses, actually. I'm just trying to think. By the 3 businesses by the end of the 90s, and then my current business 2002. So that's 21 years old. I don't mind. I do like music from the 60s. I've got really eclectic musical tastes. I will listen to music from all sorts of genres, all sorts of periods. Grease, Star Wars, all the 7. Yeah, you can go on and on, can't you? Of course, people today would say, but hang on a minute, we know you got this film and that TV show and that service and and it's all true as well. And they will be having these conversations in 30 years' time. Whatever the world is like in 30 years, who could hazard a guess? See, I think we're at a precipice. No, not a precipice. That's not fair, because that sounds like it could go off the cliff. We're certainly at a corner. We're at a corner, a road, a junction. So if you think about in the 18th and 19th centuries, you had the demise of agriculture because it was largely replaced by mechanical machinery. That put a load of people out of work, which coincided with Victorian industrialism, where they pulled a load of those poor folk into cities to live in the worst accommodation and get paid next to nothing. So they had miserable lives, whereas up until that time, they lived out in small rural communities and life was sweet, although not so much if you were African, you know what I'm saying, or Native American, or indeed actually poor British, because we had a slavery system called serfdom. Since well, the Romans kind of, but certainly since about 1066. But that was destroyed. And then we had the tech revolution, which has been really since about the mid-90s, because the World Wide Web as we know it today was only went public in 1991, believe it or not, with Tim Berners-Lee. And I set up a web design agency 4 years later. Absolutely, Crystal. That's what you get. You get informed and entertained on this channel. So we're now at a point where artificial intelligence is actually starting to deserve the name. Up until now, artificial intelligence and machine learning and robots have kind of been, not really, are they? Whereas now, they're starting to get there. And we could be in a situation where if you are in a business or a career that is largely the delivery of information, so an accountant, a lawyer, a barrister, a doctor, anybody that is a consultant to an extent could easily be replaced by artificial intelligence, easily, because you are ultimately asking a question, and if the data that is collated is accurate and it's delivered in a human nuanced way, so that when you talk to it, it recognizes the question and it responds in a good way. Well, you're at a point where already you can phone up a GP and have somebody you've never met in your life for an amount of money jump in ahead of the health service and help you out. Well, that's only a hop, skip and a jump from that being an artificially intelligent creation. I don't think you're ever looking at we're never going to get to a point where AI is going to replace everything. It could technically be possible, but we won't allow it to happen because the impact on society and culture would be too vast. We could have invented robots that did pretty much all menial tasks, but there comes a point where if nobody's working, then nobody's earning. And if nobody's earning, they're not paying tax. And if they're not paying tax, it ain't going back into the system to keep the whole of society going. So there has to be, at least in a capitalist society, there has to be money made, profits, and that goes back out in form of tax. So there you go. Imagine if someone in the 80s told you, says Nakinu, you'd be reading a text message on your screen from a mobile phone whilst you're in the middle of your own TV broadcast. Yeah, absolutely, my friend. When you think about, we had mobile phones. I remember the first ever mobile phone I ever saw was owned by my father-in-law in 1987, 88, thing the size of a brick. My first ever smartphone, my first ever phone connected to the internet was in 96, 97, and then then obviously came the iPhones in 97, so that's kind of the period it went on. I've been using, hey Vary, how are you, dude? I've been using ChatGPT throughout today. Yeah, absolutely. To write help articles for an online training platform, my company. Mate, I know. I've been watching it for a long time and using Midjourney as well. And now there are people actually they've developed code now where you can say to a GPT, to an AI bot, could be ChatGPT, but you can actually tell it, what I want to do is this, and it will go off and write its own script, its own prompts, and it will go back and check and clean it and everything. And this is happening. It's happening at a rapid pace. You would not believe the pace. I read at this moment in time, it has been for a few weeks now, most of the videos that I've been watching on YouTube are around the progress of AI, whether it's generative like Midjourney, or graphically, and we're about to see a Mid-Journey for video come on board. Imagine soon you will be able to generate and create your own kind of Pixar movie using AI. So, you just generate some initial characters, a premise of a story, maybe the bare bones of a concept, and you'll throw it at the AI and it will give you a 1.5 hour movie with a start, an end, a middle, a protagonist, some peril, maybe draft the music around the activity in the movie, the whole thing. It's going to happen. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do? It will come down to what part of all of this can we as humans bring to this thing? Do we just become, horrible turn of phrase, forgive me for this, but is this going to be like the 21st, 22nd century equivalent of the slave trade, where we just become wealthy owners of businesses with a whole bunch of AI bots doing the thing for us, generating revenue? Already there are people creating graphics and bits and pieces and selling them on Etsy, just using Mid-Journey. They just go in with 6 prompts and then they get printed off loads of stuff and flog it on Etsy. Things like wedding invites and speeches. People could go on Fiverr now, and I need someone to write me a speech. Chat GPT, there's your boy. Christian Henry, how are you? What a beautiful name. Thank you so much for popping in. It's great. I love seeing new people popping in, and I hope you're well. Just a quick reminder, guys. Of course, today's, chill chat, and I've gone off on a bit of a dystopian future kick, but we didn't do a Friday, and I'm really, really sorry. I desperately wanted to do a Friday show, but we're having in the middle of Bristol with the family and stuff. It was ever not going to happen. Hi to you. So I thought today we'd do 2 giveaways on the wheel. What say you? And we'll do that shortly. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, it's members only. Fridays, it opens out to subscribers and members. Yeah, well, Christian, you may or may not know that I think I'm right in saying that the word robot is actually Czechoslovakian for worker, or a form of worker. So, when, was it 19... Got to get this right. There was, I think it was 1923... when hang on a second, robot movie. Yeah. Oh, here it is. I'm googling this because I want to get it right. It was called, it wasn't called that. It was called, where is it? Oh, I'm not going to find it now. There was a movie in, I think it was 1923, and the reason I say that is because I know it's just been Metropolis. There we go, Metropolis. It's just come out of its 100-year copyright era. So anybody can now take Metropolis and reproduce it. And there have been some coloured versions. They've not been that great, to be honest, but it's an amazing... Fritz Lang, I believe, was the director of Metropolis. And I think I'm right in saying that the robot that is very famously shown in Metropolis was partially contributed to the look of R2-D2 in Star Wars. But if you look back on Metropolis and even some of the old Charlie Chaplin movies, there was definitely that thought process about the creation of these mechanical humanoid looking devices. But it's only a hop, skip and a jump, isn't it, from taking the artificial intelligence of a chat GPT like software and implementing it within a humanoid looking device. Although I think we're a long way away from Westworld, a long way away. Yeah, they were amazing, weren't they? I'm just looking now. Fritz Lang, I'm fairly certain, German director, Frizlaing, Metropolis. It's saying here, where are we? I missed it. 1927, but that would, I mean, potentially, I suppose. It depends. We're a little ways away from 1927, but certainly it's coming up, if it isn't already there, from that point. I know Winnie the Pooh just kicked out its 100 years. Although somebody told me that Winnie the Pooh, the original story, which was written just after World War One, so in the 1920s, but Winnie the Pooh, the iconic Disney character, is still well within the 100 years, because that was like the 1950s, I think. 1950s, 1960s. So it's a bit of a minefield. I'll be very careful if you're going to reproduce Winnie the Pooh on that basis, because it only pertains to the original story and the original illustrations versus the Disney-fied version that came later. Such a fountain of knowledge. Oh, bless you. Bless you. School. Well, yeah, but, you know, it's the I said this to somebody earlier. The problem we have in our two countries, by which I'm talking largely the UK and the Americas, and it's Canada, North America, and to a degree South America, but I'm not so sure. I mean, they're all so independent states and countries and so on. But the problem we have is that our press in the UK predominantly is 75% owned by one specific political ideal. And therefore, we've all become conditioned to think in a certain way and not to do research. I always say to people that, you know, every story has a backstory and has two sides to it. And sometimes you just have to go off and do a little bit of research. This is another problem, of course. If you're reliant on an artificial intelligence, and the way ChatGPT and its, you know, kith and kin work is they feed literally millions and millions and millions of data points, you know, all sorts of content, so that it has this vast pool of information to pull from. Now, who decides that information, the initial information, was accurate? What would it take, for example, for a company owned by, let's say, an Elon Musk, who has, you know, he's now shown his true ideological colours, to skew the approach of that data towards their specific ideology? And we're all using this tool. We've all become reliant on what it tells us. You know, we're writing articles to shortcut the time it takes. And in that content are specific ideas and ideologies embedded, just subtly at first, until it becomes almost a given that that's a fact. You know, for instance, so much of the history of the slave trade, I'm talking from the 16th, 15th, 16th century up until the 19th century, so much of that is inaccurately taught, even to this day. So how do we know? And this is from people that we trust, teachers and Sunday schools and politicians and so on. So how do we know that the data being fed into a ChatGPT, for example, is accurate data? We're just going off the basis. And I know, because I've tried recently, and I stopped using it for this reason. A little while ago, I needed some stuff written and got it to write, and it was inaccurate, and I knew it was inaccurate. And the other thing with ChatGPT specifically is, because they have to manually feed the data, I'm sure ultimately it'll just be allowed to go off and run around the world like Google does. But the problem is that it has a cut-off point, so it's usually a year. So anything that you try, if you go into ChatGPT now and say, for example, who won the football on Saturday, the Miami Dolphins versus the whatevers, you won't get the answer because it'll only know from a year before. So it will say something like, well, the Miami Dolphins have traditionally played and whenever they've played they get this kind of result. So you've got to the same thing applies with using technology to give us information as social media. Consider it 50-50 accurate, and with a bit of a pinch of salt, and the other half of it, do your own research. That's all. That's it. Lesson over. Sermon over. Shall we go and look at the old the clock, the wheel? Hello, it looks like I've crashed. Oh, I'm back. That's good. Whew, I thought I'd bombed out there. Let's get down to the Wheel of Fortune, shall we? And we'll do 2 spins. Hey, here we are. Woohoo! Hey, woohoo! Now then, I think I'm going to pop the chat onto automatic, so I don't need to tend to it. So what we have here, ladies and gents, particularly you fantastic folk who have joined us today for the first time ever, or in recent weeks, you'll see we have 2 wheels. The one in red are my amazing Team Rokk members, and the one in purple is a pool of just under 100 PC games from the obscure 2 titles like Horizon Zero Dawn. And we are going to spin the wheel. First, we're going to spin the wheel on the entrants, the members, and then we will spin the wheel to see what they've won. And we're going to do it twice today because I missed one on Friday. I did say I would make up for it, and we'll do that today. So I have my amazing technology here. This is quite new. Here it is, a biro. The biro, named after, I believe, Laszlo Biro, who again I think was Czechoslovakian, and invented the pump that pumps ink down into the ball. So the ball draws the ink down. Well done, Laszlo. I think it was Laszlo. You're more than welcome to Google it, but I think it's probably what he was most famous for. Laszlo Biro. Right, that music's got very loud. Let's turn it down there. Let's spin. So we're going to spin right away. If you've become a member, I would probably have seen it. So I think I've captured everybody up until the show. We'll give that a little spin now. Here we go. Good luck, guys. We'll do it twice. I like this one. It reminds me of kind of like the bow of the ship. Is it the bow, the front of the boat? With Jack and Rose. I'm on top of the world! Here we go, we're slowing down. The music's not in sync with it, by the way. It'll come up again before it slows down. Right, here we go. It's this exciting bit. Look for the grey triangle above the purple wheel. That will be who it is pointing at. Is it going to be Charlie Mouse? I think Charlie's only ever won once. Haven't seen Demi, Goddess of Gaming, for a long time. It looks like it's going to be Demi. She used to be a daily regular, didn't she? Bless her. Right, Demi. I do have your Twitter, so I will let you know. We'll do another one now. Let me clear that. We'll do another spin. I'll just do a little shuffle first, though, so that we see the names shuffling there. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Well, I think it is. Right, we'll give it another spin. Here we go. So we've got Demi for 1 prize, and I'm going to spin it again, and we'll see who's going to get the second one. Here we go. Oh. So a little note, Demi. number 1. And then number 2. What's it going to be? Who's it going to be? There's Crystal. It's gone past Crystal. 10:30 Media Guys gone past Curly, mostly Martinez. Humble. Oh, it can't be Demi again. That was a shuffle. Granite T. Could it be Raven Animes in the chat today? Stop on Raven. That'll be cool. No, it's going to keep going. It's going to go to Big Steve. It's going to go to Geek to Sneak. It could go to Miss Phoenix a little bit longer. Go on, 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 go on. Go on. You can do it. You can do it. Yes. Yes. Miss Phoenix. Now, Sam, it's your choice, because I know in the past you've said you don't really do PC games, so you've declined, very graciously, declined the prize. Do you want it, or would you like me to spin it a third time? It's your choice. I'm more than happy for you to keep the prize. Of course I am. You know what I'm going to say. I know what you're going to say, bless you. Phoenix is going to want me to spin it a third time, ladies and gents. Thank you, Sam. It's very generous of you. The ladies are winning. Yes, true, Ray. I hadn't spotted that. That's awesome. Well, let's give it another real good old shiffle shuffle. And I tell you what I'm going to do as well, just to make it even more random. I'm going to change the amount of time it spins. I'm going to take it down to half the time. Another little shuffle. I want to make sure it's nice and random. Right, okay, here we go. Third time. Thank you, Sam. This one's on Miss Phoenix, so make sure, whoever you are, that you thank her. Here we go. Ooh. Right, who's it going to be? Bless you, Sam. Phil McGrath. Come on, let's get another lady. Let's get up to Megatron. Look at that. Or Lily M even. I don't think it's gonna stop on. Isn't that funny? We were just saying about Raven. There you go. We just said, didn't we? Or I did, that Raven Anime was indeed in the chat, and it would be cool if he won. There you go, Raven. Well done, my friend. Let us then, having now decided who are our winners. So we have Demi Goddess of Gaming and Raven Anime. So we're now going to spin for the game itself. So 2 games, and we'll start with Raven. We'll start with Raven Anime to begin with, and then we'll see what Demi's won. Here we go. Let's give it a little shuffleette. There we go. Right. Goody gumdrops. Goody gumdrops. There is actual music for the wheel, but it doesn't come through, and I know why, by the way. Well, I can't be bothered to explain. But I could hum it. It's quite nice music. I could hum it. Anyway, spin, Rock. Why don't you? I will, right now. That was me. I was being a cheeky chappy. Right, here we go. The first game up for Raven Anime. It's going to go past Fallout, Baldur's Gate, Chenzo, Gods versus Humans. There you go. We've just been talking about AI and such. Ollie World. It's a great little skating game. It's not that one, though. I think it is. Raven Anime has won Ollie World. And that is actually a cracking little skateboarding game. It's the Rad edition, no less. Awesome. Right, just making a note of that. Well done, Raven Anime, who I don't think is in the chat anymore, but that'll teach him. Right, let's hide. Let's shuffle it again. There we go. Here we go. Second time around, this time for Demi. I tell you what, I'm going to do the same as last time. I'm going to change the time. There we go. Just makes it a little bit more random. Right, here we go. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that, my friend. I think I've got him on Twitter, but I just want to make sure. Right. It's a little bit slower this time. Shiny the Firefly, American Fugitive, Police Stories. Fabio, Just Die Already. Change, 5 Dates. I think that's like an RPG thing. Okay. We've got Change, but I will double check. I have a funny old feeling that that one's actually been won before and may therefore not be there. If that's the case, we'll go with the next one, which was 5 Dates. Awesome! Brilliant stuff. Well, that was cool. That was very cool. I must fix it so that you guys can hear the music. Because I know you say you can, but what you're hearing is the tinkly music, which is omnipresent when we do the wheel. But there is actually a specific music track when the wheels go round, which I don't think you guys are hearing. But it's all good. Here we are, we're back again. Back at the welcome sign, the sign of a welcome break, something along those lines. So that was good, wasn't it? So as it was pointed out earlier, tomorrow is the Rokk Show. It's one of the highlights of the week. We'll have my great friends Ray and William, and I'm really, really hoping that David's going to feel up for joining as well. And we'll have some fun because it's been a bit quiet the last few days. Not everybody, people are up doing their, holidays thing and stuff. So we'll get some chit chat, some bants, and some chocolate on the go. That's what we'll do, which will be good. It'll be our first day back at work as well tomorrow for the UK. Well, not if you have had to work through the holidays, as I know a lot of people do. They are amazing, Crystal. I saw you playing Among Us on Friday, I think it was. And it sounded like and looked like you were having a heap of fun. They're lovely fellas. They've been great friends for a number of years now. And as we were saying earlier when you were streaming, it's all about the community. And I am incredibly blessed to have an amazing community. Miss Phoenix, I've been stuck in one room, so I've been desperately stalking anyone I can find online streaming. Oh, poor old Miss Phoenix, by the way, guys, has, as she calls it, the Rona, or the coronavirus, COVID. How are you feeling today? I hope you're feeling a lot better. I know you've been pretty much bedridden for the weekend, haven't you? When I got it, which I think was about a year ago, I was out for 10 days. I was in a right old state. You are indeed, and you're a very, very welcome a new member of our community, Crystal. We're a very welcoming bunch, and it's lovely to have you with us. Thank you. Damn Rona got me good. Oh no. And the thing is, I often say, the variant that's kicking around now is the weakest one. Imagine, my daughter got it when it was first time around. And I often say to people that I think I also got it first time around. It was misdiagnosed as pneumonia at the I think it was end of November, beginning of December 2019. So it was just before it was properly recognised globally. But I know quite a few people think they got it before it was properly recognised. And I think I was one of them. And I remember that was quite nasty. And then we got it again last year. We went up to London to do some photography for my daughter's degree. And, you're on tube stations and hotels and walking around towns and stuff. Unfortunately, we all went down with it. But it's been 2 years since I've gotten sick. Oh, that's good to know, Christian. Did you have the dreaded vid? The Rona, as Phoenix calls it. Most of us have had something. Of course, at the end of the day, we all get corona viruses, don't we? We all, whether it's the flu or a bad dose of the cold, they're all the same family. They're just different strains. For 2 months, oh my God, that's horrible. 2 months worth of it. Ow. Oh, geez. Did you end up with long COVID? Because so many people that had it early on had ended up, you got over it, not shots. So you didn't have the shots, but you got it. Okay. I know a lot of people ended up getting it, and even to this day, I bumped into one the other day, and a fella that used to work for me. And I haven't seen him for a little while, actually. It was lovely to see him. And he said, yeah, he has long COVID. He was diabetic. When he worked for me, he had diabetes. But he exercised himself into fitness. So he lost a load of weight, did a load of exercises, and really got himself into a good place. And he banished his diabetes. And then he said to me, because of COVID, he got it back. And what's worse is that he can't take his pump. You know, those little handheld pumps that people, when they have a lung condition, he can't, because apparently he's now allergic to it because he got this long COVID thing, and it affects people's hearts and all sorts of stuff. Terrible, terrible business. Terrible business. Sam said, my family were supposed to visit tomorrow until Sunday. Oh no, so my lovely week off is ruined. Oh, bless you. Oh, that's such a shame. Asthma. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah, that whole asthmatic thing. Yes. Oh, Phoenix, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's the trouble, isn't it? It's the knock-on effect of illness. Neil says, my friend had it attack her pituitary gland last week and was completely incapacitated. She's now recovering well now, although still in hospital. Oh my God, that's up here, isn't it? The pituitary gland. It's like around your thyroids. Oh man. The pituitary puts out a lot of the chemicals that we need to grow. But when you are fully grown, it also puts out a lot of the regulatory chemicals that you need to get you through the day. So that's horrible. Guys, anyway, we're all here. And it's lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me, particularly as we tail end out of what's been a long weekend, particularly here in the UK. So we will be back tomorrow for chuckles and much misguided humour. With my lovely friends, Ray, William and David. So please do join, please do pop in, same time as always, and we'll make it worth your while. We'll have a laugh and it'll be absolutely fantastic. It does affect everybody so differently, you're absolutely right. Fortunately, I've just cooking myself internally and coughing up a lung. Well, on that lovely thought, we'll leave you here. And I will see you fantastic folk tomorrow. A little bit of chill music as we leave. You'll see me now as I walk down the corridor with my shopping trolley of all my belongings, heading out to the streets to find a place to sleep for the night. See you tomorrow. Rock out.